All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about the massive tectonic forces that have completely reshaped our world over the last 50 years. And it's this quiet revolution, one that wasn't just driven by new gadgets, but by a whole new social class that has literally changed everything. So to get us started, let's try a little thought experiment. Imagine we could pull someone from the year 1900 and drop them into the 1950s. Then we do the same thing for a person from the 1950s and bring them to today. Now, which one do you think would be more freaked out? Who would have the bigger culture shock? Now, at first, you'd probably bet on the person from 1900, right? I mean, they'd be absolutely floored by cars, skyscrapers, TV, all of it. But the way society worked, the strict offices, the 9-to-5 grind, that would actually feel pretty familiar. But our traveler from the 1950s? Oh, they would be completely lost. Sure, the cars and TVs would look a little sleeker, but the social world? Casual dress codes, flexible schedules, women in charge, this huge emphasis on self-expression, that would feel like landing on another planet. Turns out, the biggest change wasn't in our machines, it was in us.
So what on earth caused this incredible social shift? Well, the answer is the rise of a brand new social class, one that's now right at the very heart of our economy.
See, the real engine of our modern world isn't steam or steel anymore. It's plain old human creativity. Our ideas, our ability to innovate, that's become the most valuable thing there is. And the people who are paid to generate those ideas, well, they're the ones driving our world forward now.
And this brings us to what's called the creative class. Now, when you hear that, you might think of artists or writers, and yeah, they're in it. But it's so much bigger than that. It's a huge group of people, scientists, engineers, business folks, who are basically paid to think for a living, to innovate and solve really complex problems.
And the scale of this is just staggering. The creative class now makes up a full third of the entire American workforce. We're talking over 40 million people. And yeah, you can see the service class is technically bigger in number, but it's the creative class that really holds the economic and, frankly, the cultural power today.
So who are we really talking about here? Well, it's the scientists and engineers, for sure, architects and designers, but it's also educators, people in business and finance, lawyers, doctors. If your job is less about repetitive tasks and more about problem solving and coming up with new ways of doing things, chances are you're part of it. Okay, so what is it that makes a city or a region a magnet for this new class? Turns out there's actually a kind of recipe for it, a formula for building places where creative people really want to be. It's known as the 3 T's. First, you need technology, the basic infrastructure for innovation. Then you need talent, a whole bunch of smart, skilled, educated people. And third, and this is absolutely crucial, you need tolerance. You need an open, inclusive place where people feel welcome no matter who they are, where new ideas aren't just accepted, they're celebrated. The places that nail all 3 of those, they become hubs for the creative class, and that's where you see explosive economic growth. But the influence of this group goes way beyond just the economy. The values of the creative class have fundamentally reshaped the fabric of our society, how we live, how we work, even how we see ourselves. You can think of it as a shift from what was called the organizational age to the creative age. The old world of the company man was all about fitting in, about conformity, about stability. Today, it's the exact opposite. We value individuality, diversity, and your actual merit. It's a total flip in what we, as a society, consider important.
And you see this so clearly in the modern workplace. I mean, think about it. Flexible hours, casual dress codes, focusing on what you can do instead of just your job title. These ideas used to be radical. Now, they're pretty standard in a ton of industries, all because companies realized they needed to give creative people the freedom and autonomy to actually do their best work. And these changes, they don't stop at the office door. They've reached right into our homes and reshaped our most basic social structures. Just look at the family. By 2010, only 1 in 5 Americans was living in that traditional nuclear family setup. That is a massive drop from nearly half back in 1960. And this isn't some sign of moral collapse. It's a direct reflection of these deep economic shifts.
But, and this is a really big but, this whole transformation hasn't been a simple success story for everybody. The rise of the creative class has also carved some deep and, honestly, troubling divisions into our society.
Richard Florida, the very author whose work we're exploring, calls this whole new order a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's unleashed all this incredible energy and wealth, but on the other, it's created a huge gap between the winners and losers, and it's fueling massive inequality.
And you can see the raw economics of that divide right here. On average, someone in the creative class earns nearly twice as much as someone in the service or working class. This isn't just a small wage gap, it's a fundamental economic chasm that separates these groups. And that economic divide, it doesn't just stay on paper. It spills out into the real world. We're sorting ourselves more and more by class, living in different neighborhoods, sending our kids to different schools. This creates these deep geographic and political fault lines. It's a huge reason our politics feel so polarized, right? We're living in these bubbles where we no longer share the same reality as people from other classes, which makes it incredibly hard to find common ground. So this brings us to what is maybe the central challenge of our time. How do we take all the power and energy of this creative age and make it work for everyone, not just for a select few?
Well, the path forward starts with this really simple but incredibly powerful idea. The argument is that creativity isn't some special gift only for a lucky few. No, it's a fundamental human trait. It's a resource that every single one of us has inside. So the real goal here isn't to slow down the creative class. It's to build a truly inclusive creative society. The challenge is to find ways to transform all jobs, service jobs, manufacturing jobs, you name it, so that they tap into the creativity that's already there in every single person, and then to reward them for it.
Which leaves us with the big question for our era, doesn't it? The rise of the creative class really defined the last 50 years. But figuring out how to unlock the creative potential in all of us, well, that's what's going to define our future. And it's the absolute key to building a world that's more prosperous, more equitable, and more meaningful for everyone.